Okay. I almost never get to have vets on here, like, as first timers. You know what I mean? Because the vets have just been here now.
True,
It's all rooks.
Yeah, you never really recruited vets here. You guys haven't picked any up.
And you're a podcast vet. So this has to be the best one, no pressure.
I am. This is your season 5 for me inside the green room.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's going fast.
Okay, don't give it all away. We're talking about that later.
Okay.
We're starting rewinding back your whole entire life.
Okay.
No, we're not. We're going to go back to your first year with the Spurs, though.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm going to ask you?
I'll find out once you ask.
Your first year with the Spurs, the playoffs were against the Memphis Grizzlies.
Really? My first round?
Yeah, in FedExForum.
Was this 2011? Yes, I do. I do remember this.
Which was historic for the Grizzlies because
it was a 1 seed versus 8 seed, no?
You were 1, Grizzlies were 8, and it was the first time they ever won a playoff series, ever.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. I do remember Zebo going off. You guys still had Mike Conley and Mark. They played very well. But Zebo was killing us. I also had Tony Allen. I was at the end of the bench at that time.
You were?
I didn't play much at all. Manu had a dislocated elbow, I believe, during that series. He had just come back from that. And I think he had a big-ass thing on his arm, if I'm not mistaken. We'd have to look up some clips on that one. But I think Manu came back from a dislocated elbow.
That's crazy.
I do remember that. That's the reason why, I won't say I was brought in, but I remember being brought in and having to play one-on-one with Manu to make sure he was good enough to play for that.
Dang.
I was the lab rat for that.
And? I mean,
he was good enough to play.
He was good enough to play.
He played decently well, but I mean, I know he was short-armed.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I looked at your stats for that series, and I just kind of assumed you were young.
Yeah.
Like you only got in a little bit, but
yeah.
Wild.
Very wild.
So I was gonna ask you what you remembered about that series, but it seems like you don't really remember like being here at FedExForum.
I do remember being here. I do. I remember playing in that series.
Like 13 years.
It was a long time ago, but I remember I came in. I remember hitting one shot, and it was like
gang.
toward the end of the game, and they were like, "Oh, this kid actually make a shot or two." But I didn't play much in that series. I was the end of the bench, last guy out of rotation. We had George Hill at the time, and yes, we were 1 seed. You guys were 8 seed. And we lost, and I got in at the end to give guys a rest, and I guess the series is over, but I do remember getting a shot or two up.
Okay. I feel bad for bringing the losing up.
It's okay.
Just like a little.
Everybody loses.
Everybody loses.
Everybody loses.
But
that wasn't the one that hurt the most.
What was?
I've lost in the finals before.
Oh, yeah. So first round is whatever.
First round, yeah. I mean,
okay.
It happens.
You came back and played Memphis in the playoffs 2 more times.
We did play them quite a bit.
The next time, you swept them.
Okay. I do remember sweeping one time.
You do?
Yes.
And then the year after that, you beat them again.
4-1?
I think 4-2.
Okay. I do. It was bad. We had some battles. The grindhouse was jumping then.
That's what I want to ask you about. Like, you've been here now as part of the Grizzlies. You haven't played, but you can see how, like, it's bumping in here.
Yes.
Especially, like, Friday, Saturdays.
It's getting back to those days. It's been lively as of late, but I guess maybe as a youngster, because you're just experiencing how crazy the playoffs are for, like, first couple times. It's hard to match that energy back then what they had. But, I mean, I haven't been back for a playoff game since then. So, I mean, we'll see, but the energy then was unbelievable. You know, obviously it died down for a short amount of time, but you could tell it's back. But I'm interested to see how it is when the playoffs
were loud. Like, I'm sure you saw clips last year of, like, the whoop that trick and stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy in here.
Yeah.
It wasn't as crazy back then?
It was. I think
Probably not when y'all swept.
Might have been even crazier.
So rude.
It didn't matter. From the start of that game, those games, it was like that. It might have been even crazier, but it was very much like that.
When Steven Adams came here last year, Grizzlies fans remembered like him tussling with Zebo a little bit, and it was like it was a warm welcome because Memphis is just a nice period. But did you feel like there was going to be any issues, or was that so long ago? Like I don't think anyone likes to be swept. No. That's what I keep talking about.
No, nobody. No, of course not. But you know, as competitors, as players, that's what we do. That's what we're here. When on the floor, it's expected. When you're off the floor, we're different guys. We're friendly. We know each other, and a lot of guys get along. I'm sure Zebo.
Steven Adams is friendly, and people were still
and
like.
That's the crazy thing. I think in the past, if you could probably look us up, I probably got into Steve-O at a point or two in my career.
Really?
I think so. I think we got into it one time when he was in OKC. You know, he set some pretty rough screens. It's hard to box him out, and You know, I think I got frustrated one time, but he's such a nice guy. But you know, we had some battles in OKC. It doesn't mean I disliked him or said don't even remember it half the time. I don't think he remembers it either.
So you guys have never talked about it?
No, it didn't come to mind until just now when you asked me about it.
Is it one of those things, because I watched your podcast when you had Zaire on,
yes.
and is it one of those things where, like you said about Dylan, that like he's one of those players that you hate playing against, but one of the ones that you love
for sure
playing with? Is Steven one of those guys?
Yes, for different reasons though.
Why?
I feel like similar reasons, but some parts of it are different. I feel a lot of people look at Dylan as like one of those FU guys. Like he tries to muck up the game, get in your head. I don't think Steve was trying to get in your head, but he's just.
I've sat courtside and I've heard him say.
He talks a little trash, but
everyone talks a little trash.
But Steve was more of a funny, different type of trash. You know, he's more lighthearted, but he's just hard to play against because of how good he is and how physical, and you can't move him. He's a brick wall, so he's gonna get rebounds. He's gonna screen you. It's gonna be a tough night, whether you're guarding him or not. He's gonna set some screens on you. It's hard to get on those screens, whether it's chasing or ball screens or trying to get a rebound. You know, he's one of those guys you just hate having to match up against, or just having to play against, because at some point you're gonna run into him.
Yeah, that does look like it hurts.
Yeah. Well, so there's a handful of guys that said Ja's very good, and he's gonna be good regardless. But he's so much better and so much harder to guard when you have guys like Steven Adams setting screens for him.
You said there's a number of guys.
There's a number of guys that you hate, not just hate guarding, but hate guarding because of who they have around them. So like back in the day, the Clippers had DeAndre and Blake, and those guys would set some, and you know, Zaza would set some screens in Golden State. You know, there was Gortat. There were certain guys that were big bodies that you knew you had to chase people off of, chasing a JJ Redick or a Clay, and you got guys like Steven Adams and Zaza and DeAndre Jordan setting those type of screens. You're gonna have a long night. I
did see the pick and roll numbers for the Grizzlies went like wild as soon as Steven Adams got here.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
He knows his role well. He does it very well. And yeah, he doesn't try to play outside himself, which makes him a very high IQ, smart player, and it makes the team thrive. When you have role players that know who they are and accept it and embrace it and do it to their best ability, it makes the job a lot easier for everybody else around them.
You think the Grizzlies are there? Role players know their roles and they're happy?
I think so, because the way they're coached. You know, Taylor does a great job of not saying he has to set roles, but he coaches everybody the same. And there's no egos, similar to San Antonio type of atmosphere. And everybody.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, are there similarities? You haven't played yet, but you've been around the guys.
For sure.
With Spurs, Lakers, Raptors, like the teams that you've won with.
For sure.
What?
Well, I said this one very similar to Toronto because we were younger then, but also said Taylor from San Antonio got a lot of the theories and principles. And
you knew him from San Antonio, didn't you?
I did.
I didn't even think about that.
Coach Jones was my coach in Austin once or twice. I played down there.
That's
Taylor
crazy.
was there in San Antonio when I was there. We had Dave McGlure there too. We had a lot of guys.
As a player? Or as a coach?
As an assistant or a developmental video guy. We had a lot of people that are here in San Antonio. I think I might have played with Blake, honestly. And
the basketball world
D-League
is so
back
small.
then. It's the G League now, but it was the D-League back then.
Yeah.
But it is small. It's a small world, and the basketball world's even smaller. So
that's crazy, actually.
I've known a lot of those guys from way back.
Okay, do you want to talk about some of your teammates?
Sure.
If he says no, we're like, podcast over. Okay, you've played with some really good guys. Greats.
I've been very lucky. I reminisce at sometimes when people ask me questions like, who's your top 5 this? And I'm like, man, holy hell, I've played with a lot of really good.
Who are your top 5?
I can't say. Like, they put the starters. I'm like, you know how many point guards I played with that are really good, or shooting guards, or some power forwards or centers? Like, I've played with Tony Parker. I've played with Manu Ginobili, Kyle Lowry, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard.
Like, that's a wild list.
There's a lot of people. I played, even said Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka. Like, there's a lot of guys. Not all of them in their prime, but we had Lakers. We had Dwight Howard. We had Rondo. We had a lot of people on that squad. A lot on different rosters too.
Is asking, and I'm sure you've been asked this before, is asking what championship means the most to you? Like asking like what kid you like best?
Yes.
What dog you like best?
It's hard. You can't pick. It's like, oh, what's your favorite child? You can't really pick. Like,
I feel like I'll be able to.
I don't think so. You love all your kids. It's like you have two more, one dog. You love your dogs the same. You may treat them differently because they have different personalities.
I feel like I would love my first dog best.
I don't think so. Your second dog maybe
my parents loved me the best, and I'm the youngest.
I think that's what they tell you. I don't know if that's true. Dang. They love all their kids. They have one that's easier for them. They may have one that they might like a little bit more.
So you do have one that you like more?
I think they were different roads. I think some might have meant more, some might have been harder, some might have been tougher, but all the same. I love them all the same.
Is the bubble one harder?
That was probably the hardest.
That was a hard season.
Yeah, that was probably the hardest one, yes. For sure the hardest one. And then I think the second, I wouldn't say they're all hard to do. But I think after losing to Miami and then having to come back in the next year and how Pop was that year, he was very tough. And doing it again, that was tough too. But the bubble by far the hardest place to play and hardest thing probably I wouldn't say ever done in life, but it's close.
Yeah, because you're away from everything.
100 days in whatever space, it doesn't matter how nice the space is, it's still a confined space. And to be there for 100 days is tough to do.
Yeah, that was a crazy time.
Mentally, physically, emotionally, this is hard. What
about, like I've never talked to you about this. You took 5 million years to get your ring from Toronto.
It took a while. I actually was talking about this the other day in the locker room with some of the guys. Well, there was said COVID hit. Mm-hmm. Actually, it was a week before we were supposed to go, when I was in LA, it was a week before we were supposed to go to Toronto. The league shut down. So never got a chance to go. Then time off, then the bubble. And
they wanted to do it like in front of fans,
They were
right?
like, yeah, they were like, do you want us to bring it in the bubble? I don't think they brought the ring in the bubble. They asked, and I was like, nah, we'll just wait till next season or something. Next season came around, we didn't have fans yet. And
that's what it was. Like you had gone to Toronto. Oh, they were in Tampa. I knew there was something.
And they had the ring in Toronto. So the ring was in Toronto. They were in Tampa. We weren't gonna do it. We thought about doing it there. I'm like, but they played in Tampa. I'm like, no, we're not gonna do it. That's not even Toronto fans. Half the time, the fans there weren't even rooting for the Toronto team.
No.
So it was a weird time. So they had a whole year in Tampa, then they came back. So that's why I took. And the next time around, the first opportunity for the year following that I got COVID. It was during.
So I'm not laughing at you.
And they kind of re-shut down the arena again too. So like it all happened
Because Canada's different too.
Yes.
Like they've been like more
back
shut down than America.
So early in the season that year.
Yeah.
And so they shut down. They kind of limited people coming to the arena, and they shut it. And then I got COVID, so I didn't even travel to Toronto. But end of the year, they opened up the arena back again, and I was able to receive my ring. 2.5 years later, at the end of the year when
that one has to be at least like the ring ceremony has to be.
Oh yeah, that was waiting for that one. It was
What do they say? Absence makes the heart grow fonder. So you had to have been fond of it.
First, yeah.
Is that the saying?
At one, I was gonna hold out. Like after the year, I was like, all right, I'll just wait. But after a year, I was like, yo, just give me the ring. They're like
mail it to me.
They were gonna do it the right way. I was like, all right, let's just do it this night. And they're like, and then said there's always something that came up. Then when I got COVID, I was like, oh god.
Was it a full arena that night? Or
yes,
like
I think so. I think so. They opened it up to full attendance. I don't know if everyone's in there, but it seemed pretty full. And it was right before we had played them in the playoffs. Like we played in the playoffs like 2 weeks later or something like that.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Shout out Toronto. Okay, let's get back to Memphis though.
Yeah.
Forget Toronto. There has been a lot of talk about, like coming from you, that I've seen, about like the difference between the teammates that you've had and the teammates that you have here in terms of, let's just say, age.
Okay, yeah.
I've heard you talk about it on your podcast. Yeah. The music that they listen to, all of that. Yeah. You're not old. You and I are similar age.
I'm not old. I don't think I'm old, but I feel old when I'm around certain groups of people.
Compared to some of your teammates who are teenagers still.
Yes.
What does bond you though? Because you look like you fit right in.
Yes. Because at times, they keep me young, but I said I'm not old. I still keep up with the times, what's going on with social media and what's happening. But we have, the same interests for the most part, and that's basketball. The wanting to win, they want to learn. They ask a lot of questions. I've done a lot of the same things that they've done. I can give them advice on it. I guess that's the basics.
What about outside of basketball?
Outside of basketball, we have some similar interests. They like to do young stuff. So sometimes I'll do it once in a while.
What's young stuff? Oh, like
go out, hang out, go to a lounge.
You guys aren't doing like puzzles?
No, we play cards a little bit.
Okay.
I wouldn't say not a big amount of gambling. I'm not a gambler, but they'll play some games. We'll do different things like that. They like to listen to music. You know, we do what teams do. We break bread, team dinners, and chop it up, learn a little bit about each other.
Food is always
Those are great. Those are always good things. Like the break breads are always amazing. I think they're great. You get a chance to know not just the team, but the staff. And I feel like I'm the same age, if not older than a good amount of the staff.
I was just about to say that. How old's Taylor? He must be like close to you now.
He's only a couple years old, maybe like 38, 39 maybe.
Yeah. Since I've been here, it's been 3 and a bit years, the whole thing has been like every guy on this team has a chip on his shoulder. A lot of it has come, like Jaws came earlier in like no one recruiting him in college, and then a lot of the guys were like, you know, Dez is 30th, like the draft picks are late in the first round, or like a lot of the guys are second round, including Dylan, who's like 45. You're one of those guys.
Yeah.
Have you guys had that conversation at all?
We've talked about it briefly. Something that I think that's the reason why we kind of could see the same or have the same interest or same perspectives because of where we come from. None of us were giving a lot, or like a lot of us had to prove ourselves to get here. A lot of them second round guys or
undrafted guys like Coach R.
And that's
you played with another undrafted guy who's like a superstar now in Fred VanVleet.
Yes. Which is very similar to how San Antonio worked. They used to operate and find European guys, foreign guys, second round guys, and turn them into some superstars, like a Manu. You know, Manu wasn't a high draft pick. So yeah, I don't know if Tony was that high either. Tony was I think he was first round, but I don't know if he was like lottery. I could be wrong about that. But they find a lot of guys like Boris Diaw, Tiago Splitter. They find random guys. Steven Adams, one of those guys that come in with the chip, have something to prove, not afraid to do the dirty work, and you know, are excited and happy to be here, and they don't have an ego.
How excited are you to like get back out there?
Oh, I can't wait. Obviously, it's easy from the sidelines to coach and tell and talk things. And when I actually get out there and try to do them, you're like, all right, it's not as easy as it sounds or as it looks. Some of those guys make it look easy. Obviously, I want to come back to where I can perform at a high level I was performing at before I got hurt. But I just want to be able to at least be able to help my teammates or give them some advice or play with and just have another level of bonding. Because right now, the only way I can really be in the fields with them is like on the traveling in the locker room. It's a different type of chemistry and different type of bond when you're actually in battle with someone.
No, for sure. I want to ask you, because you haven't gotten to play, I was doing my little looking at stuff about you, and I came across this picture of the 2019 All-Star game, and you're like on the, you're on the court with Jaren saying something. I'm not expecting you to remember the picture.
I think I remember. I don't remember the picture, but I do remember. Was he a Rising Stars?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I did the, I talked the game, I think.
Yeah.
It was me and Frank Kaminsky, I think, was with me, and we talked with, I forget who, it might have been Adam Lefker. We actually, we were getting reps up and doing some media stuff, so I walked around with a mic and did some interviews and talked to guys. So it was my first time of actually, because I was there for the three-point contest, but I got a chance to also do some interviews. And I think at that time, he was on the court, and I got a chance
You were doing like an interview
just
type
to chop
thing.
it up, talk with them, and see how their mind was. And you know, people, this is like the first fans getting the insight or background of what the locker room's like or talking to guys on the court. So people wanted that content. They want to hear, you know, what we talk about. So it was like first time talking to him and talking to Kuz before I got a chance to play with Kuz. So it was fun.
Do you remember anything about Jaren at that time? Or was it just like you were in work mode? You were a media guy?
I do. I just remember him being very young.
He was very young.
I think he had shorter hair then too.
He was bald.
Okay.
You remember?
I knew he had a lot of potential, but I knew he had to grow into his own, grow into his body a little bit more. But I remember he had a lot of potential to be very good.
You guys look like you've gotten close since being here. Is it rehabbing together? Is it just like you guys
for sure
vibe?
And just how he is. You know, he's the type of guy that can be best friends with everybody, anybody. He talks to anybody and make you feel comfortable around him. He's a big kid, and he likes to have fun, sociable, and yeah, you know, he embraces everybody as his teammate, and people. I think that's a big part of him growing up around the league, around certain players, and understanding like there's a pay homage type of thing. Yeah, his father is a part of his paying homage and also part of respecting, and that it's a fraternity type of deal, but also not being afraid to ask questions or talk to certain people.
I think my last thing that I was curious about with you is obviously you're talking about doing this in 2019, like media type stuff. You have your podcast for 5 years. Like why media? Like it seems like you're like setting yourself up. I'm not saying eventually, or I am saying eventually, not soon after basketball. Why media? Because I think your dad like coaches stuff. No. There you go. Why?
It's just a lot of hours. It's very stressful. I think it's a lot of stress. when I'm done playing, I don't want to be as stressed as I was as a player. Like,
just want to talk
we
about
carry
it.
a lot of weight as players.
Yeah.
You know, we have, it seems like some guys make it look easy, but a lot of these guys are head of their households and they're dealing with and taking care of a lot of people off the court. There's a lot of, they don't have people to talk to, vent to, and then you have to perform. You have to perform at a level to win or to get the next contract, to whatever it may be.
And if you don't, you're completely scrutinized.
Exactly.
I get it.
And then same thing with coaching. Like, and the difference with coaching is you rely on other people now for your job. So you really have not a lot of control of, you know, how the outcome is or how your job is, how far your job is going to go. So you can be coach of the year one year and get fired the next year. I've seen it happen plenty of times. Or you don't
even get a full year.
It's just a lot of hours. And I mean, I'm sure the head coaching job is definitely worth the pay, but I know assistants and other, I don't know if it's worth the pay to do that many hours, to travel, to have that much stress, to manage ego. I've managed egos for a couple of years. I've played with some guys where it was, I wouldn't say difficult, but it was just a lot more on the plate of like, okay, we gotta make sure this guy's good, mentally, physically, emotionally, you know. While playing, it's not hard. I mean, I'm sure it's a little easier while you're not playing, but I've done it while playing, and it's not an easy task. To have to do it for 15 to 17 guys, and your job's on the line, I think I'd just rather, you know, I'm not saying media is easy by any means. I've done the sportscast at EU. I know it's tough. I had a lot of fun doing it. I probably need some more reps, but I think it's a little less stressful than having to coach. So I think it'll be easier. I could still stay around the game, talk it, travel a little bit. It just seems a little smoother, you know, less stress.
Right. I guess that's a good answer.
You know.
I never thought about it that way.
I know I'd be decently at coaching. I know I'd be okay with it. It's just, I don't know.
You would, because you're hella smart. Like, you can see your basketball IQ, but you can also see that through your broadcasting. Like, I listened when you were on the Bally thing. I had my little.
I was decent.
Yeah. I told you were good.
I heard the fans were upset that they had a big picture of me or a picture of me in the screen that was blocking the game. So they were upset
Get this guy off.
Yeah, like, yo, we like hearing him, but we don't want the picture. We want him on the screen. We're trying to see the game type thing.
Dang.
Yeah, I'm glad you thought I did well.
Yeah.
I mean,
don't take it personally.
I'm working on it. I'm getting some reps in. So yes, I couldn't. I always said never coach, but I won't say never, but I just don't see it. In my, I said, it just seems like too much.
I get it.
You know, when I'm done playing, I want to be kind of.
You're gonna play like 25-year NBA career, have enough stress in your
hopefully.
life.
Well, you know, all I need is a couple more, and I'm good. You know, 25. Yeah. Well, I mean, until the wheels fall off. But I'm not trying to kill my body that badly. You know, this is your.
You're gonna be in media though. All you have to do is just sit there now.
Yeah, that'd be easier.
Right?
Yeah, that'd be easier.
Yeah.
Be 10 years doing that. You know, be up there with Shaq and Chuck and Kenny and Ernie, those guys, maybe one day.
Falling into Christmas trees and all that.
Yeah, that looks like fun.
Does it?
They're just up later. They're just up late nights and they just talk. They like to talk trash and mess
but you'd
with each
be
other.
back in, like, you'd be in LA. It wouldn't be that late.
Yeah.
You'd be chilling.
Move around, travel, still stay around the game.
Live life.
Yeah, it's not like a big culture shock to when you're just at home, you know.
Could you wear all your rings while you broadcast?
No, I won't do that. Shaq wears his. I just can't. Mine, they're just his hands. It fits his hands okay. The rings now are so enormous. It looks ridiculous when you wear them. Yeah.
Okay.
So no, I won't be wearing those.
That's all I got for you. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Great episode, right?
Beep beep.